Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. Got another Master Duel video for you. So, we're going to start our new deck profiles here. Stuff that is using, decks that is using new stuff from the pack. First one up is going to be Horus Tearlaments. So, Tearlament, I think, is overall a really cool and fun deck, despite the fact that I definitely wouldn't call myself an expert, and I really only play it about once a season. Now, let me reiterate that for those of you over in, I don't know, the MDM Tearlament channel on the Discord server, I am not an expert in this deck. This is a deck I play for fun once a month. I don't know what it is about Tearlaments and Branded, all the fusion decks. Like, whenever I put up a deck profile, without fail afterwards, it'll get posted into, like, the Master Duel Meta Discord channel for, like, Branded or Tier, and they'll be like, you're so bad at deck building, Hexlex is so bad, all you YouTubers are bad at deck building. It's like, yeah, don't worry, I see your comments. But anyway, yeah, no, I think even though I'm a very casual Tearlaments player, I think it's a deck that is very, very fun, and I had a lot of fun rocking the new Horus variant here. So, let me preface this, because again, Tearlaments players in my experience are always like very, when it comes to like whether they think a deck is good or not. I don't think the Horus build is optimal. Now, I don't think it's bad either. But after testing the Horus build, I just don't think that it ends up being the optimal way to play Tearlaments. Probably, again, I do have fairly limited experience with this deck. In my opinion, pure with like a very, very small Shadal package, like the Beast, to make the Winda, is probably, and without like excessive synchros like I enjoy playing, is probably the way to go. However, that doesn't mean this variant is bad. I think a lot of people conflate optimal and good and unoptimal with bad. A deck can be unoptimal, but still good. A deck can be unoptimal, but still reach Master 1, top, or even win tournaments, right? So, that's what I think of Horus Tearlaments. The deck is probably not optimal, but it is definitely good. And I definitely had a lot of fun playing this variant. So basically the idea here is that we're using the Horus cards in order to set up rank 8s. And Tearlaments greatly benefits from the Zombie Vampire being added to the deck, allowing the deck to have more options for mills in that regard. It's actually something we have already done in Tearlaments before, playing Zombie Vamp, back when Chaos Ruler was still legal. You know, we would use that to go into Zombie Vamp with a Punk engine with Tearlaments to get even more mills. So, the idea is fairly sound, but again, as far as like optimization-wise, these slots could probably be served to just make a more consistent deck build overall. But it's not even just the rank 8s that are the reason to play the Horus cards, but honestly, these cards are just extremely solid bodies in of themselves. And I think when I was evaluating the Horus engine, that is something I didn't take into account as much as I should have. The fact that, like, because, you know, I was thinking about, like, oh, in a pure Horus deck, like, can you really end on the 4 main bodies and have that be good enough? Probably not by itself, but when, in addition to, like, you know, another deck/engine, you have the threat of these Horus cards continuously coming back if they don't, like, out the King's Sarcophagus or something, right? Then, that can be something that can be very difficult for your opponent to deal with a lot of the time. The Horus monsters themselves also have effects if your opponent starts to, like, out your board while they're in play, which can make them even more annoying to actually end up dealing with there. So, I will say, you know, I think I did underestimate them a little bit when I was evaluating them, like, as an engine, right? So as far as that goes, like I said, for the extract, we have the Zombie Vampire. We are rocking the SP Little Knight in this deck as well. I don't think I summoned it in Tearlaments, but don't worry, we'll be playing a deck at some point in the future where I did definitely summon SP Little Knight. Spoiler alert, Snake Eye. Anyway, for another rank 8, I decided to try the number 90 Galaxy Eyes Photon Lord. I didn't actually end up having a game where I summoned either rank 8, but I think if you are going to play another one besides the Zombie Vampire, I do think number 90 is probably the way to go in this meta. You could also try number 38, Hope Harbinger Titanic Galaxy. It kind of just depends if you value negating spells or negating monster effects more. I think in this meta, negating monster effects does end up being more important. But again, I don't think that Hope Harbinger would be terrible if you own that but don't own number 90. You could just play that instead. You could also just play the Zombie Vamp as your only rank 8. Again, making a rank 8, in my very limited experience with this deck, doesn't seem like it's like a mainline strategy. That's not something you're going to try to do like every single game. So I think you could really just get away with only the Zombie Vampire here. We are rocking a little bit of an extended synchro package, mainly just the Ancient Fairy Dragon plus Visas Amritera for the Rev Synchron we're playing. Ideally, I would have liked to have fit a second copy of Rev Synchron to have more opportunities to make these synchro monsters, but we are also playing another small little package that can help with that, and that's Gamma. So this was actually suggested by somebody in chat when we were throwing this deck together, because I was doing this on stream. Same with the games, as usual, that you're going to see. They were played on stream. Yeah, someone suggested, because I did have Ash Blossoms, but someone was like, no, you should do Gamma. And I was like, I don't know. I don't have that good experience with Gamma in the past. And they were like, but Gamma can make Visas Amritera if it goes off on your turn. And that's kind of what sold me to try it. I don't think I did end up with a game where I end up resolving the Gamma, but having a good level 8 synchro definitely makes the Gamma more appealing, and Visas Amritera does end up being, of course, a very good level 8 synchro for this deck, because it can add in any spell or trap card that mentions Visas Starfrost from deck to hand, which is literally every single tier limit spell or trap card. So the ability to search these is definitely very, very nice. But yeah, I don't know. If I was playing Ash Blossoms and not Gammas, though, we would definitely be playing, I think, again, even with the Gammas, should still be playing a second Rev Synchron if you're going to play AFD and Visas, just to make that a little bit more consistent to go into. And again, because apparently I have to say this every single time I make one of these tier limit videos, I am aware that the Synchro engine is probably not the optimal way to play this deck. I just think it's fun, and I think it is still good, even if it's not optimal. Again, good, optimal. Two different words. That mean two different things. But I mean, otherwise, I think we're doing a bunch of fairly standard tier limit stuff. We are on Super Polys, only a couple, but we do, of course, have the targets right here in Garura and Mud Dragon. Although, even if you're not on Super Polys, I think you do still play Mud Dragon, especially if you are on the Horus package, because you can still make Mud Dragon by fusing a tier with, like, a Dark Monster. And the level 4 body to make the rank 4 Redoer, as well as the target protection, can both be very relevant effects there. There are quite a few extra monsters you can put in. Like, even considering you're playing the Synchro package, right, of AFD Visas, you could still play, like, another Super Poly target in the form of Earth Golem at Ignister if you wanted. You could play Zeus with your Xyzes. You could play more Lynx if you wanted to play Cross Sheep and or Underworld Goddess. Yeah, Cross Sheep I've put in a couple of tier limit lists, but I just never find myself summoning it. It just doesn't come up for me. But again, as I've said many times now, and have to reiterate apparently, not an expert on the deck. Never claimed to be. But yeah, I think that overall I'm pretty satisfied with how this build played out. I almost didn't play Fenrir and Wraitsoth, but it's like, if you play Ancient Fairy Dragon, it kind of doesn't make sense to me to not play this for the field spell F to potentially come up, so... but I could see a world where I'm playing a third Super Poly. I think I would very much like a third Super Poly. Like a third Super Poly and a second Rev Synchron, maybe instead of, like, again, I would think Fenrir and Wraitsoth would be the first cards to go, but again, I also have trouble cutting the extra field spell when we're playing the Ancient Fairy Dragon too. So if you really wanted to search the Horus cards you were on Ancient Fairy Dragon, I guess you could play the Horus field spell, but we definitely don't need to get Imseti that badly. If we happen to draw Imseti or, like, you know, King Sarcophagus, that's fine, but it's not something you have to go out of your way for. Also, I do have a copy of Hoppy here. Hoppy, I'm still not sure about that pronunciation, but you don't necessarily have to do this one. Like, if you don't want to craft the extra UR, you could definitely just play, like, the, I think Dumatef is the one that draws. Yeah, you could definitely just play a Dumatef instead. And actually, Dumatef being water, there is a bit of an argument to play Dumatef instead anyway in a tier limit build. The reason I went for Hoppy is because I think its bonus effect ends up being more relevant more of the time. Especially if you've got the field spell up, you can put back your own tier monster with this effect into the deck and then pop an opponent's card, which can be potentially pretty good, but it's very situational. Again, I could definitely understand, even if you own the Hoppy, just playing the Dumatef instead for the water attribute. Plus, you could argue that the draw effect might be better than the shuffle back effect. But in any case, let's see. I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover with the build. Yeah, I think it is. So let's break it down card by card, and then we'll look at some duels. We're on 1 Ciphering Driver, 3 Max C, 2 Ciphering Gear Gamma, 1 Tearlaments Havness, 1 Revolution Synchron, 1 Performade Trick Clown, 1 Fairy Tale Snow, 2 Tearlaments Shiren, 3 Tearlaments Rhinoheart, 1 Kaldo the Sacred Protector, 1 Mudora the Sword Oracle, 1 Destrudo the Lost Dragon's Fission. We got 1 Kashtira Fenrir, 1 Tearlaments Kashtira, 3 Imseti, Glory of Horus, 1 Hoppy, Guidance of Horus, 1 Foolish Burial, 1 Reinforcement of the Army, 1 Foolish Burial Goods, 1 Tearlaments Grief, 1 Primeval Planet Purrely, 1 Pressured Planet Raitsoth, 3 Tearlaments Scream, 2 King Sarcophagus, 2 Super Polymerization, 1 Tearlaments Heartbeat, 1 Tearlaments Meta Noise, 1 Trivikarma, 1 Tearlaments Crime, and then 1 Tearlaments Celiac. That's going to be our 42 card main deck. For the extra deck, we are on 1 Mudragon of the Swamp, 1 Tearlaments Kiklos, 1 Garura Wings of Resonant Life, 1 Predoplant Dragostapelia, 1 Tearlaments Rolkalos, 1 Tearlaments Kaleidoheart, 1 Ancient Fairy Dragon, 1 Visus Ambriterra, 1 Baron de Fleur, 1 Psychic End Punisher, 1 Time Thief Redoer, I almost called it Psychic Thief Redoer, 1 number 90 Galaxy Eyes Photon Lord, 1 The Zombie Vampire, 1 IP Masquerena, and then 1 SP Little Knight. That's going to do it for our deck. Let's move over to the games now. Okay, our first opponent is going to be a Purrely deck that's actually teched out to beat us because they're maining 3-dimensional Fissure. We're going to be playing against a lot of different decks here that are theoretically pretty poor matchups for us, but coming out on top all the same. So we're taking the first turn. This hand is not the most ideal. Like, I don't have any Tearlaments cards, but I see a number of plays I could potentially do here. We have the Fenrir that we can lead with, we have Imseti, and then we have the ability to potentially make AFD with Rev Synchron plus Mudora, then go into the Ambriterra for the Purrely Rhino. This is actually one of the hands where I am very glad I'm on the Synchro package if I didn't open Tearlament stuff. Okay, so that's right. I remember this Purrely opponent kind of surprised me. Not when they summoned Purrely and then grabbed my friend. That is, of course, pretty par for the course, but I was rather surprised when the My Friend revealed 2 Purrelys and then a Purrleap. Especially because, well, I mean, I guess they couldn't have controlled this, but the Purrely didn't end up finding anything. Very, very good for me, but I don't know. I just thought that was really weird. Now, it made a little more sense here when they go into Ghost Trick Dual Hand. It's like, oh, okay, they're on the Ghost Trick package, but, like, I was trying to figure out, like, as we were playing the game live on stream, I was sitting there trying to figure out, like, what kind of a hand would you have for those to be the 3 you grab off of My Friend? Because my thought was that they must have already had a quick play spell, but then they didn't play one here, I don't think. So they just go for a UDF, Utopic Draco Future, and then ultimately pass. I think they might set a card too. So I don't know. I did think that was a little bit weird. The Purrleap, I think, was the weirdest part for me. Like, the 2 Purrelys, if they're on the Ghost Trick build, I can understand that. But the Yeep, I feel like, well, yeah, they didn't even set a card. I feel like the Yeep would have just done absolutely nothing here, so I don't know. Tier Cash, actually a pretty bad draw, because we already had the Kashtira Fenrir in hand, but I'm going to lead with pitching the Imseti with the King Sark. They're going to get eaten by the Ash Blossom, which honestly is a lot of the reason why I didn't do the Horus stuff as much as I wanted to in these games. But you know what? If the Horus package is going to eat Disruption and let me still make plays, I'm fine with that. So we are going to get Maxied. Pretty brutal last 2 cards for the opponent to have Maxi and Ash Blossom, but I can't just pass into this UDF, especially while my friend Purrely is still on the field. So I feel like I kind of have to keep making plays here. Now, we milled the Rhinoheart off of the Revolution Synchron there. Actually, just like the best possible mill I think we could have gotten, period. Pretty wild to have actually hit that there. But again, even if we had not, we still could have just gone for Vice Ambriterra, gotten Shiren, and then used Shiren to send the tier cash in our hand. So when Kiklos activates, that's when they're finally going to use the Utopic Draco Future effect. You'll notice I've not been using Fenrir, even though my opponent activated a couple of hand traps. That's because it would have gotten negated and then stolen by UDF. We definitely want the Fenrir to banish the UDF here, because it can't be destroyed by battle or card effect. Also, while it did kind of suck to draw Tearlaments Kashtira, at the very least, now we can still search it off of Fenrir, because we put it back via the, by fusing with it, right? So, Now I'm going to do the play I described earlier, using the Purrely to grab Shiren, sending the tier cache, milling 3. Get to wheel the tier cache actually back to my hand a third time because we milled Meta Noise, summoning it by banishing the Meta Noise. Gonna mill a couple more cards, and then yeah, we get the search there from the Scream. And after that, I'm just gonna move to battle phase. Like, I could very easily keep comboing if I wanted to, but that would continue to play into our opponent's max C and make it more and more and more and more likely for them to draw Nibiru. So it's like, I've got lethal on board, I'm just gonna take it, and it turns out that they are not actually able to have any plays that can stop us, despite having drawn a bunch of cards. So, pretty cool stuff. We went second against Purrely, and they had a Maxi and an Ash Blossom, which both resolved, and in spite of that, we still had more than, not even just enough, but more than enough gas to push through their board and take the W all the same. Cool stuff. Very, very cool stuff. All right, let's see our next game. All right, next opponent will be on Kashtira, as we said, continuing with matchups that are generally pretty poor for the Tearlament deck. Again, the last game, the Purrely one, although we didn't see it, they were main decking 3-dimensional Fissure, which could have been very scary. Alright, we're going first here. Opening a pretty good looking hand. I'm going to lead with the Tearlaments Rhino Heart, sending the Havness. I could have led with the King Sarcophagus, but I don't know. I didn't want to commit to pitching the Trick Clown. Not when I had Super Poly in hand. I might need to hold on to cards in hand to potentially discard for Super Poly. So they're going to imperm the Kiklos, which is pretty awkward, but unfortunately going to have to be fine. It's too bad King Sarcophagus doesn't let you send cards from the field to the graveyard to activate, because that would be pretty insane here. I'll send the Trick Clown now to send the Imseti as well. Trick Clown will, of course, come back by its own effect, and then Imseti will also come back by its own effect. Fun fact about the Horus cards that make them even more OP than I initially realized is that their effects to summon from the graveyard do not start chain links, by the way. So here I have a couple of different outs I can potentially do to my opponent's stuff. I'm going to make the IP to threaten to go into SP. And of course, because we have both a fusion and a link, we can threaten to do multiple banishes. And then of course we have the Super Poly, as was discussed earlier. So opponent's going to set 3 and then ultimately pass back over to me. Yeah, not super expected of the... Well, I guess we'll see why it's not expected of the Kashtira deck. So they're good at preparation, and I'm like, okay, they're using the effect, and I was like, huh? And they summon Unicorn? So I'm really not sure why our opponent didn't just summon Kashtira Unicorn. I'm wondering if they were scared of me going IP plus Kit into Little Knight and then banishing before they got a chance to use the effect. But if you had Kashtira preparations anyway, wouldn't you then just be able to summon the banished Unicorn right now all the same? I don't know. I'm genuinely kind of asking. I was like, maybe I'm missing something here, but I feel like this was a little bit weird for my opponent to not just summon the Unicorn. So we're going to use the Tier Cache and the Scream effect. Opponent is going to Ash Blossom the Scream Surge. 100% fine. I did not need that card at all. And because we are going to use Tier Cache to mill, that will end up proccing the Kashtira Unicorn here. Yep. But thankfully for me, they actually ate the SP Little Knight, which I'm like, huh? That's 100% fine. Like, I do not plan on using that anymore. The option to go into SP was nice for the opponent's turn, but yeah, at this point, I'm good. This game did kind of get me thinking about potentially playing another Link monster. In case I was in a situation where I still need to use IP, it'd probably just be the Underworld Goddess. In fact, it would definitely just be the Underworld Goddess if I was to include, like, one more Link monster. Again, not just for situations like this with IP, where I might potentially need it, but also, like, Underworld Goddess is definitely not bad in Tearlaments in general for outing towers, and as you can see from the last few games, especially with the Horus package, it's really not difficult at all to just get a bunch of random bodies on the board to make your Underworld Goddess, right? So, yeah, I mean, there we have it. Just a pretty easy win from there after our opponent kind of failed to stop us. Again, that prep for Unicorn from hand was a little bit weird. If they really were scared of SP, they could have summoned it. Then I would have banished it off of SP, and then they summoned it back off of prep. But I was really curious about the other two face downs. But alas, we won't get to see them. We do have a couple more games to see, though, so let's see those. Next up is Stun, which I call it a bad matchup because they're on shifters. I don't think this one's on D-Fissure, but I mean, you could argue that Stun's a bad matchup for everybody, right? That's kind of like the point of Stun. So, Going second against Sun as well. Definitely not the most eager about that, especially as they are going to not only lead with the D shifter, but in a moment here, it'll be everyone's favorite Fossil Dyna plus Moon Mirror Shield. Yeah! Woo! No. We have quite a few tools here at our disposal, though. I think I could have actually... I'm trying to think if I could have actually dealt with the Fossil Dyna on that turn. Oh, yeah, so this was, I think, really weird. The opponent summoned Ecclesia and then Solemn Warninged it. But during the actual, like, live stream, when this game happened live, it was, like, instantaneous. Like, the second Ecclesia touched the board, Warning flipped up. Which is what made me think it was a bot. Like, I don't know. Either that or there's somebody that is truly on... I've joked about Yellow Button Turbo, but somebody who is truly on Yellow Button Turbo here. Alright, so passing back over to us. Yeah, you know what? Okay, so I could have actually definitely outed the Fossil Dyna last turn. Once again, Imseti, eating the Solemn Strike negation there. I want to say this too, real quick. I had somebody who, like, was very, very rude about giving me shit for I pronounced Imseti, and then deleted the comment. One, that's a total bitch move. Two, like, I just got two of the letters mixed up. Like, damn, I would not want to be someone with dyslexia and meet you if you're going to be that much of an asshole for a pronunciation of, like, a fantasy name at that. Anyway, just had to get that on my system. So what we can do here is we can Pearl a Rhino for the Rhino Heart, right? And also set up Scream here. Here's how we're going to out the Fossil Dyna. This looks weird, but here's how we're going to do it. Rhino Heart, send any tier monster. It doesn't even really matter which one. I'll keep milling here, because why not? Now we're going to Foolish one of our Shufflers, Keldo or Mudora. We can use Keldo to put back some of our cards, including our Tearlaments monster. This will trigger the effect of Pearl a Rhino to destroy a card on the field, such as Fossil Dyna Pachycephalo, which was our opponent's last card. It's interesting that they conceded when I activated the Shuffler effect, though, because if we think it's a bot, like, that's a very human reaction, right? I don't know how a bot would know that I was going to... Maybe it's because I targeted the Tearlaments monster with an effective Shuffle back while Pearl a Rhino was on the field. I don't know if the bot is able to check things like that and know to surrender at that point. It could have also just been a bot piloting the game and then a human also sitting at the desk. It could have also not been a bot and somebody who was just very, 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 very eager to Solemn Warning their own Ecclesia. But whatever the case, we did end up taking the win here. So, yay! We have one more game to see. Let us go into that one before we finish off here. Alright, our final opponent is going to be on Super Heavy Samurai. Not a particularly, like, anti-Tearlament deck like all the other matchups, but we're still going to be going second all the same, so potentially a bit of an uphill climb. We do have the Max Seed. That'll definitely help, though. Alright, so they're going to lead with the Motor Bike. I'm going to hold off on the Max C as they go to add Soul Piercer, which tells me that they already have Wakaushi, potentially. Looks like they already had Big Benki here. So the reason I Max-C'd when Soul Piercer was normal summoned, I did it because this deck does have a Link one they can go into, and they were probably just about to go into it. So I think using Maxi effectively does often require knowledge of your opponent's deck. For example, I generally in this meta, and I've talked about this before, I think Maxi-ing during open game states, like just during the draw phase right away, is not a good idea, unless this is a situation where Maxi-ing in the open game state is fine, because they've already committed to summoning the Soul Piercer to the board, and if they try to Link, now I'm just going to start to profit off of draws, even as they get searches. So, this is a situation where I think it's fine to Maxi if you're not going to get a guaranteed draw off of it. Alright, so they're equipping the Soul Gaia Booster. I think they are actually going to play into the Maxi a little bit here. Oh, only enough to make the Baguska. That's right. The Baguska. Alright, we're going to get an Imseti and a Scream before we're getting the turn passed over to us. Chiron is a really, really good draw here. I decided to pitch my extra Scream with Imseti. And then, oh, we got the Pearl Rhino off the Imseti draw. It was so, so good. Yeah, again, I don't necessarily think the Horus cards are optimal in this deck for Master Duel, because we already have Kiklos, but they are very fun, if nothing else. Like, That's the thing, Tearlament is just such a fun deck, but then, like, people just being shitty online kind of make it a little bit less fun when they're like, your deck's not optimal! Your deck is bad! Bad deck with bad cards by a bad player. Anyway. I don't know. I overall, in the grand scheme of things, I really don't let that kind of thing affect me too much. I mean, I'm a Yu-Gi tuber, and especially, like, being trans, like, I am not at all a stranger to getting shit on by people on the internet. But it's so... I think the thing that irks me about it is that the Master Duel meta Discord is such a good place for a lot of potential for, like, learning and growth, but a lot of the time, and it really is specific to that Discord in particular, a lot of the time, the channels end up being, like a group of people who have decided, like, this is how the deck should be built, even though oftentimes that group doesn't have, like, any tournament credits that I'm aware of. And once they decide how the deck is built, everyone else is bad. If you present a build that's, like, antithetical to how they think it should be built, they'll call you bad. They'll be like, why are you playing bad cards? Make a better deck. And it's just, like, rudeness. Like, so much more rudeness than help, I've found. The pins are nice. Usually I'll go when a new deck comes out, I'll read the pins, and I'll get the information that way. But as far as, like, interacting with people there, it's like I've said about adding a chat feature to Master Duel. I want to play Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't really want to talk to other Yu-Gi-Oh! Players, though. So, anyway, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you for watching these games and for supporting. By watching to the end of the video, that's a huge help. Let's just move now to our outro. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of the video. That means a lot to me. It's also a great way to support the channel, so thank you very much in that way as well. If you're interested in supporting the channel in other ways, like the very special patrons that I am thanking here, you can do so by checking out some of the links in the description. One of those goes to the Patreon, where you can join these fine folk and support the channel that way. I do post daily content over on Patreon, so you do get something for supporting there. And if you're interested, I also have a coaching tier option as well. Details again will be on Patreon in the link below. Also in the description linked below is my Twitch page where I stream a few times a week. You can go ahead and check that out, follow or subscribe over there if you ever want to catch me live. You'll also find my second YouTube channel if you feel like subscribing over there to watch some of the Twitch VODs as well as some additional non-Yu-Gi-Oh! Related content that I make over there. Again, any of those links you want to check out is all a great way of supporting. But again, even if you don't do that, just watching was also a fantastic way to support. And once again, I have to thank you so very much. But in any case, this is Hexlex. I'm going to be signing out, and I'm hoping you have a fantastic day.